Welcome back to Redefining Love. I am your host, Tara Portelli, and today's episode is so crazy when you really start to understand what is actually happening and how we have been unconsciously or consciously becoming a part of it. Now, let me tell you, I know you guys are wondering, what is this even about? I'm finding myself in all of this. This has been my massive awakening. I would say that's coming to me in the last couple months, but more so in the last week, just really like having sleepless nights about it, because this is something that I was so unconscious about that, but yet I was consciously making the decisions. Now, I know you guys are wondering, what is this going to be about? And I'm excited to share with you, but I have a burning question for you first. Where did we become so desensitized that we don't even know what makes us uncomfortable anymore? Now, I want you to think about that on all fronts. We are currently living in a society where sex, violence are increasingly becoming more and more profound. When you're watching television, when you're watching movies. I remember a time when I was young and you would go to the movies and there would be PG-13 and there would be rated R. And yes, I think that they're still rated, but are we really monitoring what young people see? I mean, is it really okay that children are being exposed and to sex and violence at such a young age? And it is happening, whether we like it or not. And especially in Canada, where pornography, for example, is not monitored online. You don't have to say, I'm 18 to get into a porn site. You can literally type in some type of a word and you can access pornography at the press of a button. And what is this doing to us as far as where we are within ourselves, understanding ourselves, and increasing our boundaries around this? And I'm going to share with you my own personal experience of this, that this has been part of my awakening, because I'm not judging. I was part of this. Let me tell you, I didn't even recognize it. It's only become more and more prevalent and in my conscious awareness, like I said, in the last couple months. So, when you think about now the level of violence and sex that we are seeing on TV and on the movies, for example, when you think about that, it's like that becomes normalized. So when we think about desensitization, this is just pushing a boundary outside of ourselves. So at first, you might watch a scene as a young person that makes you feel really uncomfortable. And then as you're exposed to it more and more, now you're like, okay, this is okay. And then you're like, okay, well, that's normal. So now you see it as normal. And then now you participate. So now you're participating. Well, that's normal. And, if they're doing it, I can do it. And now you're a participant. And then from there, now you're defending it, and now you don't even understand why it was uncomfortable in the first place. So this is really like the process that we go through when we push our boundaries outside of our comfort zone. And this is happening, and it can start at a young age, and it can be because of peer pressure. It can be because we need to feel like we fit in. Community is like an innate need as a human being. We need to be in community. We need to be accepted by community, and to be ostracized or to feel different or outside of the community is not comfortable for us. So it's kind of like we follow the pack. And social media, as I spoke in my last episode, which I'm going to link down below, is really become this peer acceptance massive platform where we can feel accepted, where we can feel validated, where we get likes and follows, and people are looking at our content, and we feel good about ourselves for that. And so now, when we think about the desensitization that is happening currently in our culture, we are straying so much away from who we are. We are getting further and further away from who we are at our core, and we are moving away from our values, what is deemed respectable and behaviors, what is good and bad. We are losing our sense of all of that because it's almost like we keep pushing the envelope and the boundaries so far away from us. And now we have to follow suit. Now, the culturally, we are following the new trends and the new ways of being and acting in society. Now, I'm going to relate this back to me living in Tulum, Mexico. So, for you guys that don't know, I lived in Tulum off and on for 6 years. I lived there mostly for my retreats, but also I was on my own personal journey of self discovery. And I will honestly say that it offered me so much of that. I learned so much about myself. I had the opportunity to participate in so many incredible indigenous healing ceremonies like cacao ceremonies, sweat lodges, sound baths. There's just so much of that available at any point and any day. You could literally go and experience these things. And so having that access and that ability, and also this balance of life, which is something that you can accomplish when you live in a place like Mexico, as long as you can find a way to make a living, you can have a good life there because the cost of living is going to be less in here. And so living there in Tulum is like this place of almost like anything goes. It really evolved. It really started off as this small fishing village that grew exponentially during COVID. And it caught the eyes of people all over the world, celebrities and people with lots of money and wealth. And people came and they started investing in Tulum, and it became this mecca place, not only for healing, but also for party. So it was like another Miami. And I never personally participated in the party scene. I was always on the other side of things in the healing modalities and experiencing those things for myself. I was running my healing retreats there, and it was an amazing 6 years of experience. However, during that time, I also lost a little bit a sense of what is respectable for myself and what is reality. And that just happens when you live in a place where you're with so many people that are free thinkers, that are free with their bodies, free with their love, free with everything. And when you're overexposed to that, so of course, like I show up, and at first, I'm going to the beach like I normally would, and I'm uncomfortable because I'm in a bathing suit and I have body issues, like a lot of us do at some point in our life. And, I'm wearing my respectable bathing suit and I'm going to the beach, and I'm noticing that there's women and men of all sizes wearing little bathing suits and feeling very confident in themselves. And so, so after you get overexposed to realizing that it doesn't matter what shape or size, you could wear a bathing suit as small as you want and as little as you want, and you can go on the beach and be comfortable. And to be honest, it almost feels more comfortable to kind of subscribe to that than not, because then if you're on the beach with your, full coverage bathing suit, you feel like you're a bit of a prude. And I'm not really somebody that ever followed a crowd per se, but I definitely felt like if anybody like can accept their bodies and their all different shapes and sizes, I should be able to accept myself. So this was kind of like my personal progression to self-acceptance. Also, psilocybin therapy helped me a lot with that, about accepting myself, loving myself. That was a massive, massive catalyst to who I am today, and I'm forever grateful for that experience. And it's also the reason that I've been working in this field, facilitating retreats for psilocybin for the last 7 years. And so, getting back to my story about my transition. So, okay, so now I'm like, well, maybe I should try wearing, a bathing suit, like a Brazilian cut, which has got a little less coverage, and just see how I feel in it. So, of course, like I put on the bathing suit, I go to the beach and I feel good. I felt so good. I'm like, I accept myself, I accept my body. I'm going to wear this bathing suit and I'm going to feel confident in it. And it kind of just began there. And then it becomes, then you go and transition to, this is kind of crazy to talk about because like we're so culturally conditioned to not behave in a way that's actually natural to our body. But, you know, when you're in a hot country, you're living in a hot country, I mean, you just don't think about wearing a bra because it's just so uncomfortable. It's like sweaty under there. You don't want to like be dripping. It's like your wires are under you. You're already hot. You're uncomfortable. Like, so like you wear clothes that you can wear without a bra. And so then, so now you're at the beach, you're wearing a smaller bathing suit, and then now you're walking out in the streets without bra. You're just wearing whatever you feel comfortable in. And I'm not saying that this isn't okay. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you get to a point where you don't even, first of all, it's uncomfortable not to wear a bra at first for somebody who's coming from Canada where you don't go out without a bra, and that's like a no-no. And then you go to Tulum and then you start to take it off, and then you are slowly kind of transitioning out of that, and then you're like, oh, this feels freeing. You feel so good, you feel alive, you feel sexy, you feel in your body. And this becomes your new normal. So, of course, it's uncomfortable. Then you start to continuously expose yourself to doing it. And then it becomes your behavior. And then it becomes normalized. And then you defend it. And it's like the same process of pushing your own personal boundaries of comfort outside of the limits of what is respectable and what is your personal values and how your integrity and how you show up. And so this is where I lost myself. So now I'm wearing no bra. I'm got little bathing suits on. And now after 7 years of back and forth in Mexico, I finally make a decision. Like I'm leaving Mexico, coming back to Canada. It's time. Like I just don't see my future here. I'm grateful for everything it gave me and how it helped me to heal and all of the amazing experiences I had. But, it's time to come back. Now transitioning back to Canada, where things are more conservative, where there's more rules, where it's not free thinkers all everywhere, where it's just a totally different world. Coming back here and now trying to adapt how I'm showing up into that. So this is where the boundaries I lost control of them. And it took some time and some conversations and understanding and awareness about, okay, well, first of all, how do I want to be perceived? So when I look at myself and I look in the mirror and I think, okay, if I look sexy, does that demand respect? Is that how my higher self wants to show up? Is that how someone who's, working and creating a business that needs to be trusted, is that how I want to be seen? And what am I going to attract in? And what have I been attracting in because of my decisions of where my boundaries are, my personal boundaries? And I'll tell you, you know, maybe there's no correlation initially until you really bring the awareness to it. And then when you see, okay, like I'm dressing like this is why I'm attracting in people that don't respect me, because I'm not really necessarily respecting myself. Now, I know that can be a controversial statement, but it's about how do you want to be perceived? Like, why is it that we have become so comfortable to overexpose ourselves online, out in public, instead of keeping that for intimacy behind closed doors with a partner, for example? And that's something that I had to really understand and recognize and see in myself to then start to witness it around me, and then start to pay attention. Looking at, for example, girls in university who are going out to the bars. When I was young, we were not dressing provocatively per se to go out to the bar, but now it's like the shorter the skirt, the better. And you see these girls in line going out to the bars at night, and you're thinking to yourself, like, that's crazy. Like, how can they be dressing like that? And not judging it, but just thinking, like, what is that saying to the opposite sex? And what is the message that you want to send to the opposite sex? Because I think that the way that we dress and we carry ourselves, it has its own language. We speak a language to people when we decide how we're going to show up. And so then I think about how easily now, we are giving ourselves away at such a young age, how females are giving themselves away, how men are also giving themselves away and not respecting themselves and not respecting women. And that also feeds into this online dating culture where relationships become more transactional. Dating becomes transactional. It's like, oh, I'll take you for dinner with expectations at the end. And I'm not saying this is in all cases. I know that there's still gentlemen out there and that this isn't everyone, but I know for a fact because I've experienced it myself. I did not fall for it, but like going out for a date and someone being like, "Oh, well, I took you for dinner. You didn't want to hang out now? Like, let's go back to my place, or oh, maybe I'll come to yours." So it's like, I don't think so. But, there's like this underlying pressure and expectation. And I think that people are struggling now to really hold back because essentially when you're dating, you want to meet people, you want to be respected, you want to find love. And I think that there's so much confusion around what is love and what kind of love do you want to attract in, and what are people saying, and what are their actual intentions. And I think that we really have to use our discernment in most of these transactions these days, because I'll tell you stories about experiences. Actually, I'll also link up that story about what I went through with a Tinder swindler copycat in my dating career. And it was an insane story. I will find the episode. I'm going to link it up in the bottom. But just to go through that experience and think that there's people out there that are manipulating you. I mean, let's be real. I for sure had red flags, but I ignored all of them, and that's what we do. But, because you just want to believe so badly that this person really actually cares about you. But like in that process of red flags, intuition, maybe your anxiety is rampant in that relationship or whatever's coming up for you, or your abandonment wounds are showing up, or whatever kind of attachment style you have is like on a loop of nervous system overload, and you're still ignoring it because you still just really want to make it work. And this is what we do. We abandon ourselves because we want to feel validated, we want to feel worthy, and we want to feel loved. And so, through that process, obviously, I learned so much about myself. Like, that was a really bad experience to go through, but you learn about yourself and you understand that you deserve more, and that you did abandon yourself and you weren't listening to your intuition. Even though it was telling you that this isn't right, you were still following through with it. And so, coming back to the conversation around where we're abandoning ourselves to fit in, to be loved, to find love, and we are not adhering to our own value system. We are confused about what is normal, what is okay and what is not okay. Where have we gone so far off? There was a time that where women were classy and men were gentlemen. And right now we are not in that time at all. And this also links back to energy leakage, which is another episode that I had, which I can also link up. And it's like we are leaking sexual energy. It's because pornography has created this desensitization where we have unrealistic expectations of what intimacy should look like. It's not about love anymore. It's about getting off. And it's just this crazy level of desensitization that is, where does it end? Where do we reclaim our own boundaries? Where do we find that normal level within us? Where do we protect our children of their innocence when their little brains can't even comprehend what is going on? When the little girl watches something so pornographic or sees, I remember the first time, like, I'm going to tell the story. Like, I remember the very first time I was probably around 10 or 11, and I found this, like, it was like a porn magazine of some sort. And I have no idea like what porn it was, but it was a magazine. And I was like at, like, we were sleeping over at like extended family's house, and like saw this thing, and it was like turning the pages, being like, what? Like, this is crazy. And that, I'm 11, this is my first experience. This is my first exposure. And it was like, it was kind of like your little brain is just kind of like, what am I actually looking at right here? Like, what are these people doing? This looks really weird. And like, why are they not wearing any clothes? So it, it's like these little brains are being exposed so early. Kids are having sex at such a young age now. There's no preservation of, your body anymore. Sex is not considered sacred. It's just a transaction. It's something that we feel obligated to participate in because that's what everybody's doing at a young age, and you feel social pressure, and then you get into situations where you're dating people, and at that age, you're like, well, if my friends are doing it, I should do it. And then it just becomes this next generation of girls and boys who don't really understand what is love. What does love really mean? What does it feel like? What does it feel like to respect yourself and to love yourself? And this is really at the core of everything, what I really want to bring us back to. I think it's just about bringing awareness to it, because I've changed completely. I'm not the same girl I was. My bathing suits have changed. The way I dress has changed. And I'm becoming comfortable in that. I would say, living in a place like Tulum where you can be 45, you could be 60 and dressing like that. It doesn't matter how old you are, because you're you're free. It's your free spirits. You're just being you. But are you really? Are you just abandoning yourself to fit in, to maybe even to feel validated, to attract attention to yourself, or maybe to be seen? Because I'll tell you, living in a place like Tulum where everybody is dressing like that, it you just blend in. You're just another body on the beach. You're just another person walking down the street who's dressed like that. And there's nothing that sets you apart. But when you take that and you come back to a place like Canada and you're the one on the beach wearing the tiny bikini, yeah, people are going to be looking at you, but they're also going to be making judgments about you. And it's, again, it's not about, it's not about that it's not okay. What I'm trying to say is it's not that it's not okay. It's not that it's not okay. It's just about, what is your intention? Why are you giving yourself away to people to see you in that light? Is it because you need to be validated? Is it because you need to feel like you have attention? Do you want to feel sexy? Do you want to feel worthy? Why are you doing it? And I think it's just about bringing that awareness to what your behaviors are, how you're showing up and understanding that part, and also asking yourself, is this how my higher self, the version of me that is my highest version of me, that is without fear, with integrity, that stands tall, that walks, you know, walks in their empowerment, is this how that version of me would show up? Or am I actually giving myself away in the wrong ways for the wrong reasons? And so that's really what this conversation is all about. It's just about thinking about those things. And it's also about thinking about, like, where do we draw the line? When do we say enough is enough? We are way past our desensitization of what is normal and what is not, what is okay and what is not okay. And when you think, again, going back to like the violence and the sex in TV and on in movies, like, I mean, it's when I think about when I was a kid, like, again, it's like the things that are even rated PG-13 are exposing things that they probably shouldn't be yet. Like, the level of exposure for people under 13 years old is just that much more. And so, where do we draw that line? And and how do we bring that back? So I really just want you to take this episode and just to start to become the witness. Start to look at yourself in that light, as I have. Start to evaluate why, and why do you show up that way? Are you looking to be part of something? Are you struggling with your own self-worth? Do you want to feel attractive? What makes you feel good? I went through this massive phase where I had literally gone from almost like dressing, I would say, like semi tomboyish and not caring, to reclaiming my power through embodying my inner goddess. And this was like a phase in Tulum where I was reclaiming my power, reclaiming my inner goddess. And I would take time to get ready. I would put on nice earrings. I would wear more dresses, you know, more clothing that made me feel sensual, made me feel more feminine. And, it's one extreme to the other, but like there has to be that middle ground that feels like you're not performing, you're not acting, you're not looking for external validation. You're just being you. You're just creating your own style. You're just becoming you. And you're also preserving yourself and respecting yourself. And I think that's the most important part. And also, I want to like touch on in all of this around also around relationships, and how now that we are essentially feeling disposable because of online dating and you just swipe for another partner and it's so easy to connect with people now. Also thinking about, you know, when we are looking at relationships now, monogamous relationships are kind of becoming a thing of the past. It's almost impossible now to meet people that are faithful in their marriages, faithful in their relationships. And that has also become normalized in some degrees. And like, people are, okay, sorry that you had you cheated. I accept you anyways. I accept you back. You know what? Let's open up a relationship. And then becomes this other conversation. And so, the question is that, again, relationship styles are evolving and changing. And is it for the better? Is it okay that we're not following this structure of monogamy and getting deep with one person, becoming more vulnerable, opening up with that person, having this mutual vulnerability, which only deepens that connection, which helps you to actually heal in that relationship? Or are we staying surface? Are we too afraid of rejection, of being heartbroken, of vulnerability? And in that situation, then making our relationships open, interacting with multiple people, out of fear of being hurt or abandonment or rejection. And so there's so many different dynamics that are now stemming from this online culture of openness, desensitization, sexual energy, everything, all of this leakage that's happening. And, especially on Instagram and especially on Instagram and TikTok, where you're seeing like even people are just more sexualized, and there's this illusion of perfection, and that's like a whole other topic and conversation that we can get into, where it's like self-love and self-compassion are like more a conversation than ever, but yet we are also saying that being yourself naturally with age is not okay, because we're trying to reverse the clock with Botox and these injections and all of these other procedures that we're doing to our bodies because we want to fit in, we want to feel youthful, we want to feel good about ourselves. But we're also saying, like, I don't accept you, I don't love you as you are, to our bodies. And this is a whole other thing that we can get into, but it's also, there's a desensitization in that as well, in this like vanity culture that has come along with social media, where pictures are photoshopped or using filters, and people are even AI now, and that's just a whole other world that we can't even compute. And so now we're like living in this life of illusion and illusion desensitization. And so whatever happened to, you know, feeling respected, where you court someone, where you go out, where you enjoy, multiple dates before you ever become intimate with somebody, and you preserve yourself and your body is sacred. I mean, nowadays people feel like if that's what they're going to do, well, this person's probably not going to want to date me. And instead of saying, well, that's okay because they're not worthy of me, then if they don't want anything more than intimacy, we're accepting it, and we're abandoning ourselves. And so that's the whole point of this conversation, is like, where do we lose ourselves in all of that? So I know this was like a lot of information and a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different circumstances and layers, that this whole concept of desensitization and not really knowing what is our new normal, or what should be uncomfortable, does not exist, because we keep pushing the boundary of that, and the ripple effect that that has on us as people, as individuals, and also about who we truly are at the core of our being, without the masks, without the filters, without the pretending, without the alterations to our bodies, without having to over sexualize ourselves to be accepted and loved. So I would love to hear your feedback about this episode. I know that there was a lot of things that we covered. I know you're probably sitting there spinning a little bit, looking at yourself, or starting to wonder. And this is not to judge, because I was part of it. It's just to bring awareness so that you can start to reflect on yourself, so you can start to make changes and shifts inside of yourself that are going to bring you closer to who you really are, that are going to bring you to this place of truly loving yourself from the core of your being, and feeling that love in your body, and just allowing it to radiate, so we can shift this social pressure that we are experiencing right now, so we can shift this desensitization to back to conscious awareness, to deciding how we want to be perceived, to showing up in a way that feels respectable to our own selves, that's not abandoning our own selves, and that's only showing love to ourselves. So if you like this episode, please like, review, subscribe, because every week I'm putting out new content and I'm pretty excited about it. And also, if you feel like there's someone in your life who needs this message, please feel free to just share a link. And honestly, take all of this, think about it, digest it, think about where you fit into all of it, and maybe start to shift it. because let me tell you, taking your power back in this way, honoring yourself, respecting yourself, and really living in that way of being, by respecting yourself, you're only going to demand respect. So those people that you continuously attract into your life that don't respect you, they're just going to fade away. So have a beautiful week, and I can't wait to chat with you guys next week.